Alright, this is it, the biggest movie of the year, Spiderman No Way Home. This is your last chance to leave and avoid any spoilers because I'm gonna talk about everything in the movie. If you want a non-spoiler review, just head on to my TikTok, you can find the link below. That's a non-spoiler review for you, but I really want to talk about everything. So this is your last chance. Don't ruin the movie if you haven't watched it. Leave, come back after you watch it. Okay, cool? We can talk spoilers? Okay, cool, let's do it. Alright, so let's start at the very end, the best part of the movie, and that's the fact that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield did in fact come back for the movie. You know, ever since it leaked a year ago that they might appear in the movie, I think we all kind of had this feeling like, what if they don't show up and we end up disappointed? So it was so epic to see them actually come in. Everyone in the theater was screaming like crazy. Everyone was so happy. And it just felt very nostalgic for me because I grew up watching Tobey Maguire. 20 years ago, it was my childhood. So to see him again, and to a lesser extent Andrew Garfield, was really something special that I don't think any comic book movie has really tapped into until now. Like, I know they say Michael Keaton, the original Batman, is going to appear in The Flash coming out, but that's not the same, you know? And this movie connected 3 different franchises, which is just unheard of. So seeing the 3 of them together, bonding, laughing about the web slinging, the fact that they don't know who the Avengers are, Garfield calling himself lame, like there were so many nods and so many, it was just fan service, every single aspect of it, and it was just so darn satisfying. I really can't emphasize enough how effectively they pulled off having the 3 Spideys together. And this is a pretty big ask, like it could have easily been a flop, but it was a real success. You could say that action-wise it was a bit confusing with the 3 of them at some point in the end, but I don't know how they could have avoided that, honestly, so I'm not complaining. For a second there, I actually thought they might kill off Tobey Maguire, and I'm so happy they didn't, you know, when he gets stabbed at the end, because it would have been too harsh to see one of the Spideys die. And I just loved the entire dynamic between all 3 of them. It was just perfect, and I need to see them reunite again. It was that good. I think my favorite part of the movie was the 3 of them hugging. It gave me all the feels. And really that hug proves that the emotional center is the film's strongest asset. The movie never loses sight of Tom Holland's emotional journey, Peter Parker's emotional journey, and Tom Holland taps into that perfectly and proves why he's my favorite Spider-Man. I love that the movie allowed him to really fight for the villains and want to save them. I did not see that coming at all. None of the marketing, of course, hinted at that. And I just did not think this was the route they were going to take. And Holland just did it beautifully, particularly when we're talking about emotion, is Aunt May's death scene. That really got me all teary-eyed. It was so powerful. Marissa Tomei was fantastic, and Tom Holland was even better. And although I saw it coming and I felt like he was going to have a huge loss, it did not lessen the impact. It was absolutely gut-wrenching, but it was fantastic. It was so well made, and it really jolted the movie into that final stretch. Speaking of final stretch, having Peter Parker basically ask Strange for everyone to forget who he is was a really cool way to end his arc, at least for this movie. I'm not sure how I feel about the ending with him, you know, meeting up with MJ. It was, you know, bittersweet, but we all know they're gonna get reconnected in the next movie. It's kind of like Infinity War when half the heroes get killed off. You know they're gonna go back on that and retcon that, but that's okay. It was still a powerful emotional journey. And in the end, that's what it's about. It's about characters, right? Speaking of Zendaya, she was absolutely phenomenal here. She had such a small part in Dune, so I really needed my Zendaya fix. And she was fantastic. She got so many great, funny, sarcastic moments, and she really proved what a star she is. Now let's talk about the villains. Okay, so there was no Sinister Six, more like Sinister 5, which surprised me, but they still managed to juggle them all beautifully. So Doc Ock, of course, Alfred Molina was so good, and I did not expect him to have such a not so villainous role in the movie. I haven't seen Spider-Man 2 in such a long time, although it was my favorite superhero movie, but it was just great to see him again. I don't know if they retouched his face to make him younger, but I couldn't even tell. It did not distract me at all. But William Dafoe was the highlight. His Green Goblin is so sinister, so evil. For a few minutes there, I actually thought that he wasn't so bad until, you know, he snapped back into action with that brutal fight scene through the building, you know, crashing through all those floors. That was just intense. I was on the edge of my seat. Jamie Foxx was brilliant. You could tell he's finally enjoying the role that he's getting. I think Sandman and Lizard were kind of nudged to the side. Maybe they could have used a bit more, but I honestly don't know how they could have given them more attention in such an overstuffed movie. There are so many moving parts and so many characters to juggle. So I think John Watts, the director, did the best he could and ended up producing a really fantastic, well, kind of a masterpiece. So was this the best Marvel movie ever? A lot of people are calling it that. I don't know. So Endgame is my personal favorite Marvel movie, and I think it remains at the top spot just because I got such goosebumps in the Avengers Assemble moment with everyone rushing into battle. I don't think this movie had a similar goosebump-worthy moment. It did have a lot of emotional, beautiful moments with all the Spideys coming together. But I still think Endgame is my number one. I do think No Way Home is probably in the second place for me in terms of all-time Marvel movies, which is still immense and huge. And how could I forget Matt Murdock, Daredevil? So they recently announced that Charlie Cox is staying in the MCU, which is fantastic. No recasting happening. And although this had leaked, but again, we weren't totally sure, it was so cool to see him. I can't wait to see him interact with Tom Holland in the future. That's going to be brilliant. Now let's talk credit sequences. So we have the mid-credit sequence, which is the Venom scene with Tom Hardy. Always a delight to see him. I'm a bit confused that they sent him back to his universe, but there's a part of the symbiote that stayed on the bar. Anyway, Kevin Feige made it pretty clear that he wants Venom and Spider-Man to clash and butt heads soon. So I can't wait to see Tom Holland and Tom Hardy. Hey, they're both Toms, I just realized. Together in a movie on their own. So that's going to be epic. So that was a really great scene. Now, post-credit scene was not a scene. It was a trailer for Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. Can't wait for that to come out in May 2022, I believe. It's going to be great because it picks off from WandaVision and features Scarlet Witch and so many crazy stuff. And the final shot in the trailer was pretty epic with an evil Doctor Strange facing off with Steven himself. So that's going to be cool. So my overall rating for the movie is a 9/10. I freaking loved it. I kind of feel like I want to give the movie a 9.5, not just a 9. I just really loved it. It was phenomenal. I'd love to know how it stacks up against other Marvel movies for you. Give me your thoughts, your favorite moments, all that jazz. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you get the latest videos.